Hey, my name is Angie Meadows. I just wanted to make a quick video about being a female phone flipper and some tips that I have for other girls that are either already flipping phones or thinking about getting into it and maybe you're a bit nervous. I know when I started about a year ago, I was part of a couple Facebook groups, a couple of courses that I bought that taught me a little bit more about phone flipping, and I was like one of 3 or 4 women in these groups. You know, like literally there's like 200 guys in the group and 3 girls. So, you know, I just kind of had a lot of questions when I first started. I know there was one woman in one of the groups I was in that I literally messaged her like 17 times a day because I was like, well, how do you deal with, and how do you deal with, and how do you, so I wanted to just make a video for any girls out there that are thinking about phone flipping, you know, maybe nervous about it, you know, what's different being a woman. So the biggest thing I think that's different being a woman is that you do have to be worried about your safety. It's so stupid, and I hate that we live in a world like this, but you know, the Craigslist killer that they made a Lifetime movie about, he didn't target other men. He targeted women and killed women. You know, and they always tell you, like, if you're online dating or buying something online, you have to be extra careful, and you do have to be extra careful as a woman. My husband is 6'2". If he shows up to meet some guy that has some less than ideal intentions, they look up at him and go, oh, okay, not gonna try that with him. They look at all 5'3" of me and go, oh yeah, she's the one that I'm gonna try to mug or, you know, follow home or steal her money or whatever. So safety is the biggest concern as a female flipper. The things that I do because I'm overly cautious, but also because I've had a couple less than ideal situations come up, and so I've sort of made rules for myself. So the first one is I always meet in a public place. I absolutely do not meet at my house. I do not meet at the person's house. I don't care if I miss out on a deal because the person says, well, I can't drive that far, or I can't go, or you have to come to me. Then I'm like, okay, great, I don't care, I don't want your phone. So I always meet in a public place. I also always meet in a public place of my choosing. You know, I'm willing to go to neighborhoods that I've never been to before. I live in San Diego, it's a big city. You know, there are parts of town that I've never been to before, but I always make sure that I choose a place that is comfortable to me. I typically always choose Starbucks or McDonald's. They're well lit, they have nice, well lit parking lots. Like 99% certain that there's video cameras in there. There's always other people in there, you know, even if you're there at like 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night, there's always somebody else in there. You're never like alone. So I always meet at a place like a Starbucks or a McDonald's. The other thing, I always get there super early. Maybe not super early, but I make sure that I get there before the other person. I like to choose where I sit. I always sit where I can see the cash register, because if there's gonna be a video camera in those places, it's gonna be focused on the cash register and where the people are taking money. So I like to make sure I have a vantage point of the cash register and the staff, right? So if something weird were to start to happen, you know, I could shout and be like, hey, over here, like I need some help, you know? I'm not gonna sit in a back corner. I used to kind of feel that way when I first started because, you know, I felt like I was imposing myself, like being in a Starbucks or being in a McDonald's, like, oh, I shouldn't really be here doing business. But they don't care. As long as you're not causing like a disturbance or being like a total douchebag, they don't care what you're there for, even if you don't order. So make sure you put yourself somewhere that you can see the staff, that you can see the cash registers where the cameras would be. I also like to be able to see the parking lot. That's the other thing. I get there before the other person, and I always leave after. I make sure that other person leaves. I typically like to watch them walk to their car, get in their car, and drive away. That's probably overkill. I mean, I've never had anybody follow me to my house or anything like that. You know, but I don't want to find out the hard way that happens, you know? So I just make sure I let them leave, I watch them leave, I wait a couple minutes, and then I go after. The biggest thing is that you just want to be in a place where you feel safe. I had a guy once that it was a bad part of town I wasn't familiar with. He chose this small little like taco shop that just the whole neighborhood just was just very it was not a kind of place that I felt comfortable in. There were bars in all the windows. There was just like trash, and it just, driving through, before I even got in the taco shop, I was feeling nervous. I got in there and he, on the phone, or we were texting back and forth, he absolutely would not meet inside. He was like, you have to come out onto the street corner. Like, that's the biggest red flag in the entire freaking universe, that you won't come inside a place. There's no reason not to come inside. If somebody wants to meet you on the street corner, no, sorry, not gonna happen. I'll miss out on $100 profit so that I don't get mugged and die. If you're doing a bigger deal, I had a couple iPhone X's or iPhone 10, whatever you want to call them, that I got really, really cheap and repaired and was able to clean up. And so I didn't want to sell them on eBay because the fees, when you're selling $1,000 phone on eBay, the fees really rack up and it's totally annoying. So I wanted to sell them locally, but I didn't really want to be handing over $1,000 cash in a Starbucks. Like, even for me, like, even that seemed like a little bit too much. So if you're doing a bigger deal like that, or excuse me, if it's your first time and you're not feeling comfortable, banks, you can meet in banks, especially like I go to a Bank of America. They have like a nice lobby area. Just sit yourself down in one of those chairs there, and yeah, a manager's gonna come over and be like, hey, what are you doing here? And you just be like, oh, I'm just meeting someone. They've never bothered me, literally ever. And then for sure a bank's gonna have video cameras. A bank usually has a security guard. I've gone as far as asking the security guard to I've left with a bunch of money before, I walked in with money and left with a bunch of phones. And I even told him, I just joked with him. I was like, hey, can you just make sure I get to my car, okay? It was literally like the door was here and the parking spot was like right there. So I kind of made a joke out of it, but I still felt better that this guy was watching me walk to my car. And I'm not afraid to ask for something like that. Don't be afraid to ask somebody to be your backup, or to invite your boyfriend or invite your husband to come with you. If somebody has bad intentions, if they're thinking of stealing your money or trying to get one up on you, they're not going to do it if there's somebody else there. And there's no reason not to employ your husband. If somebody wants to do a later deal, when it's dark, or in the winter, even when it gets dark at 5 p.m. and they want to meet at 7, and I know it's going to be really dark and I don't feel comfortable, I just get my husband and I have him come with me. And if the person has a problem with it, if they get there and they see that my husband's there and they don't want to talk anymore, then I don't want to talk to them. There was something going on that probably wasn't great. So don't be afraid to miss out on a deal. Don't be so desperate to get that phone and make that deal that you compromise your safety. Honestly, those are the biggest things with being a female flipper. Nothing else is different. I mean, you will get people that treat you differently because you're a woman, because that's just society, and you'll get people that think that guys especially, that think they can one-up you on the deal because you're a woman. But more often than not, I get a lot of people that are extra nice to me because I'm female. I get a lot of women selling their phones that, they feel the same way that I do. They don't want to meet up with someone that they saw an ad for on Facebook or Craigslist and that they don't really know. So they actually feel more comfortable selling their phones to me because I am another woman. And it feels less threatening for them too. The same way I would feel less threatened if I'm meeting a woman, as opposed to a giant dude that could knock me out with one dinky little punch. So, there's really nothing that you need to do differently except be aware of your safety. If you don't feel comfortable, meet in a bank, meet in a police station. My local police station down the street has a room specifically for meeting people and selling things online. Most police stations do these days. It's it's like the Craigslist effect, people are meeting up for this sort of thing. You can actually go to the police station, but you don't have to go that extreme. You can just meet in a Starbucks. Just be aware of your surroundings and just take a couple simple steps, like getting there early, picking the place that seems safest to you. And one more thing that I always absolutely do, I don't want to leave this out, is I never tell people what I'm wearing or what I look like. So if I get to Starbucks and I'm sitting there and the person, is like, hey, where are you? I never say, oh, I am, a brunette. I used to have purple hair. And it was really tempting to tell people like, oh, just look for the girl with purple hair, right? Because how many people with purple hair are there gonna be in Starbucks? But I stopped doing that because I did have a really sketchy situation come up that I wanted to get out of, and I already told the guy what I looked like. And then I sort of had a freak out moment, and I literally like ran across a busy freeway to get away from the situation. It was, I mean, it wasn't really dangerous, but it kind of felt dangerous. So that's when I stopped actually telling people what I'm wearing. I tell people where I'm sitting. I'll be like, oh, I'm at the door, or I'm at the table closest to the door, or come in the door, turn right, I'm in the third booth. That way, if something feels sketchy, I can move and they don't know what I look like. They don't know who I am. You know, and I didn't basically give myself away yet. So that's probably my last tip. And just go for it. Don't be afraid to go for it. I've had the best year ever doing phone flipping. It was something that I thought I could just make a couple bucks extra, and I've made way more than I ever thought possible. It's an easy side hustle. You know, it's definitely more lucrative than Uber. It's probably about as safe. Honestly, when I was driving Uber, I didn't feel that safe either. Even with like the protections that Uber puts in place, to make you feel safe. So it's totally something you can do. And I just want women out there to know that you can go for it. Just take those couple extra precautions for your safety and you can rock it just like the big dudes that look like they could handle themselves. You know, you can handle yourself too. So, all right, that's all until next time.